What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and today's the day. We had talked about this a few different times, and funny enough, over the summer, trying to look for different topics, things I didn't talk about in a while, and try to fill, the summer months that sometimes can be a little slow. I actually made a video just 2 months ago, and I talked about why I believe the Life is Strange show is still a bad idea. Now, I'd like that to age like milk, okay? I really would want to be wrong, and I think the reception on today's news has been mixed. I think there are people that just flat out do not trust it, don't trust anything, unless it's directly connected to Don't Nod. And for a lot of the good that has come out of today, right? You have somebody that people seemingly are really happy about, this Charlie Koval, and I don't know much about them. I was told, the thing that they made previously, The End of the Effing World, I hear that it's very lore accurate, or lore respected at least, and that I can respect, okay? That I really like, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know who these people are. I don't think I've ever watched anything that was created by this individual. I think they've acted before as well. Never seen a single thing, okay? Not here to lie to you. But, if they've done stuff in the past that has been based off something else and they have done it with respect, check. Love it. Love it. Because, that's really what you're going to have to do here. I still think there's a lot of the pitfalls that are really hard to avoid. In fact, we talked about that a couple months ago. There's decisions you have to make. And say you do season 1 on Life is Strange 1 and you do like anthology style, like if you make it to a season 2, which, let's focus on season 1, but it does bring up a good point. Would Life is Strange 2 or Season 2 be like Life is Strange 2? And the only reason I bring that up is because you'll have to tackle the ending, right? Literally, the ending of the first game is such a you pick. And it's why so many people were not even a fan of them doing a double exposure, regardless of the quality at the end of the day. People immediately were skeptical of doing anything with Max afterwards. And I did want Max afterwards, but I could understand the reasoning of other people that, that's their game. That's your choice as Max Caulfield to pick what you want to pick. If you do a show, you're going to have to actually make that decision for us. And I can understand people being hesitant. I can also understand people being hesitant because it's just, what have they given us in terms of hope or trust over the last little while. Now, there are a lot of companies involved in this. Again, they're doing it. This is, I believe Variety reported on it, that this is the first time it has actually been ordered. I don't really understand a lot of the TV and movie, the Hollywood Reporter and Variety-esque type reporting of it, because just the lingo of it seems weird. All the time in the last 10 years, right, that we've talked about this, the show was confirmed, I think 4, 5, 6 years ago. But in all reality, it really wasn't. That's what the Variety article today was talking about. Although it was pitched and although people were working on it and trying to get it, it was never actually really a thing until today. Today was literally the day that it was ordered to be a series, and it's going to Amazon, okay? Now, Amazon's made some good stuff. Let's not discount it. At the same time, Amazon has... look, ultimately, I do think maybe it's a little unfair, even for myself, so I'll back off. No, it's unfair, I think, to label the platform and say, okay, well, you've got a couple really bad ones, you've got a couple really good ones. Could there be tendencies? Could there be a pattern? Sure. But ultimately, I just think really it's whoever's involved. You know what I mean? The Yakuza show, which was on, I believe, Amazon Prime. That is, in my opinion, perhaps the worst thing we've got. And we got Halo. And I reviewed every freaking episode of Halo week by week by week. So I have a lot of thoughts on Halo. But Yakuza, diehard here, and that show was insulting. But again, I really think it's just, okay, well, how much do they care? Square Enix is involved. A couple other companies are involved. How much do they care about getting this right? Well, again, you could argue, Don't Nod is one that's not invited, right? They're having all these companies. They're having a person who's show running that, has shown that they can care about adaptations and stuff. But you have the series makers of it that are not even going to be consulted, not even talked to. And I think that's just a big miss. You have them right there. And I understand that there's this endless grudge match war that goes on between Square Enix, Life is Strange, maybe just in general, but specifically Square Enix, Don't Nod, and then maybe also Square Enix and Ashley Birch, right? There's like a war that's like gone on for ages and forever will. I get that. I think in a way it's actually kind of fun, but at the same time, if it gets in the way of good products, it's not so much fun anymore, is it? So, that is a big negative. I would at least like those guys, the creators of the original and two, to be able to just say stuff, like, hey, here's how we would do it. You don't have to listen to us. We're just talking. We just, if you want to listen, you can listen, whatever. I really would want that, but it's, that doesn't seem like it's happening. So that's really all we got. It's officially happening. It's officially ordered. You got your showrunner or creator/writer. Like, it's got people now. And now the only thing that's left is, okay, casting, filming, coming out. So I don't know how fast they can do this. I imagine it would still probably take like a year plus. Even if you film, say, sometime next year, it probably doesn't come out till 2027. So we still do have time, before the inevitable. And the casting question, I brought up a while ago. I think I made a video on Podcast Now Plus. If you guys have watched that channel, I encourage you to do so. But Emma Myers, right? Enid on Wednesday, amongst other things. She has actually expressed interest weeks ago about, and I think Adnan, by the way, over on Twitter, if you guys know him, Life is Strange creator, amongst other things, he's done a spectacular job of covering it all. He, I believe, is the one who covered the Emma Myers thing weeks ago, where she knows. She actually knew that there was a Life is Strange thing happening, and she knows who Max Caulfield is, and she said she'd be up for it. So I actually find the timing to be a little suspect in a good way, because it's like, okay, you confirm the show is officially happening, and just a few weeks ago, she was talking about it as in, or like in a feeling of like she would have interest, if they asked her. To me, she's the leading lady. She really, and I'm not going to repeat everything I said on my Podcast Now Plus video, but she really feels like Max to me. Now, I don't know a lot of up-and-coming actresses, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have a long list. I think what Maya Hawke has been talked about in the past, right? In years past. The issue is, I think she's 27, 28, 29, around my age, and doing a 28-year-old trying to be an 18-year-old, it's not like it's never happened. We've definitely had late 20-year-olds be high school students, but I also feel like we probably shouldn't do that. So at least Emma Myers is 23. She'd maybe be 24 when they record it or film it. So it's like, it's still a little old, but it's not, and not that 24 is actually old, by the way. Not even 29 is all that old. But no, I mean, it's not old, but I mean, when you're trying to be someone that's 18, it might be, right? So I don't know. I mean, like, you've got to get Max right. You've got to get Chloe right. And one other thing that has been brought up quite a bit today, and I want to make it very clear as well myself in this video, you've got to get the originals in this somehow. I mentioned on a live stream I did, if you did like an Ashley Johnson as like Ellie's mom, right, in The Last of Us, I thought that was about as respectful and as perfect as you could do. You can't have her be Ellie, but you could have her actually, I mean, in such a perfect way, be Ellie's mom, kind of introduce a new character and have her really steal almost an episode, or at least steal scenes, and have it be really meaningful, because it's like, that's Ellie. You have a new Ellie in Bella Ramsey, but I mean, that, you wouldn't have Ellie if it wasn't for her. She is Ellie, right? And that's kind of how I think about it. We don't have a Max without Hannah Tell. We just don't. I mean, yes, there's the writers and the creators and animators and stuff, but like, Hannah Tell is Max Caulfield. I know she can't play Max, and I'm not expecting her to, but I mean, you got to get her in it, in like one episode. Ashley Birch, that one might be tough, because again, the Square Enix Ashley Birch stuff, but you got to get her in it as well. Just as a cameo. You just put them as a cameo, but obviously the casting specifically of Max and Chloe is so important, but they're all important. I don't want to go into such a deep dive of Life is Strange 1. I've actually done that before as well, but like, it's a legendary cast, like getting Jefferson right. That's important. Getting Joyce right. It might not be as important, but it is important. Getting David correct, or getting like Prescott, or getting Victoria Chase, like any of these characters, you want to get them right. And, you can't have the people that played them, because they kind of are those characters. You can't have Kate, all these characters, every single one. Rachel, maybe like a poster, so you would actually, I think, have to cast somebody as Rachel Amber, and they're just, I guess, not in it. But that's really the next step. So, there's a part of me that gets excited. Like, this was definitely an interesting day. I did not expect Life is Strange TV show news today. So, like, there is a part of me that feels alive for the first time, but then, there is a lot of fear. There really is, because I I generally am very against adaptations. Very few of them, in my opinion, are good in the first place. I'm a huge fan of Twisted Metal. That's honestly my favorite. That show freaking rocks, and I will defend it to my death. I'm serious about that. Last of Us Season 1 I thought was great. Fallout is a masterpiece, I think, of a show. So, it's been done, but I mean, Last of Us 2 wasn't very good. Halo was abysmal. Yakuza was abysmal. You've had movies, Uncharted, very middling, if not teetering on bad. So, like, you've had a lot of misses, and I think the more you do this, you're also going to have misses. So just adaptations, I'm not a fan of. And then a very particular one in Life is Strange, we are all very defensive, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. You and me, we're very defensive on Life is Strange. So, if they do it, and I said this on Twitter, like, the expectations should be sky high. They should be. We need to honestly look at it and say, okay, we're not taking like any like cutting corners type behavior. It needs to be as good as what we are almost owed for the game being so good. And my point, and even on Twitter I said it, is like, don't do it if you can't do that. Especially, by the way, it is confirmed. It is Life is Strange 1. In case that was ever like in doubt, it is Life is Strange 1. It is Max and Chloe's journey. They mentioned, I think, the synopsis, like Rachel, they kind of mentioned this, the girl that has disappeared, stuff like that. It is quite literally the first Life is Strange game. If you are retelling that game and you are now taking out, by the way, choices and consequences, you have got to do it as perfectly as possible. And you might argue, well, you can't. Well, I would argue, don't do it then. And I know, again, like, it's very divisive. Today has been a divisive day on social media on this. I would say that, and I have said that about anything. If you can't make Twisted Metal good, leave the game alone. If you can't do The Last of Us good, leave it alone, because I think my opinion is that games are the best medium, okay? I mean, that's just, maybe there's a bias in this clearly, but gaming is, I think, top tier. If you're going to adapt it into something else, you better do it well. Otherwise, leave it alone, because you're probably never going to even beat the games, to be honest with you. So, in my opinion, why even try? But maybe you can do something slightly different. I think that's where the best things have actually stood out. Twisted Metal is my favorite because it's so respectful, but it's also just a legendary show without it even being Twisted Metal half the time. Fallout does a lot of nods and winks and lore type things, but it's just an excellent show, right? And Last of Us was definitely more, okay, we have to stay very close to the game, but we're going to expand where we can. I thought Season 1 did it really well. I thought Season 2 didn't do it very well. So, you've had back and forth. You've had some that do it well, some that haven't. So, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year. I will cover this thing a ton, though. So if you're here for Life is Strange content, we'll have the game potentially, a double exposure too, and we'll have the show to talk about all on this channel. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.